Welcome to the Fertility Coaching Mastery Podcast. I'm Dr. Kela Smith, fertility and hormone expert and founder of the Hormone Puzzle Society. I help wellness professionals like chiropractors, acupuncturists, doulas, nutritionists, personal trainers, and health coaches integrate fertility coaching into their work and build thriving, purpose-driven practices. I also work with beginners who are ready to step into this work and use their own painful story for their purpose. If you're ready to confidently support fertility clients, attract aligned clients, and grow a business that truly makes an impact, you're in the right place. Now let's dive in. On today's show, we have Marc Mawhi. He is a longtime entrepreneur who has been helping coaches get more clients since 2014. He's the host of Natural Born Coaches Podcast, which has over 950 episodes released, and the Tarzan of the Coaching Jungle Facebook group, which has over 30,000 coaches in that community. He's been a speaker at events like Social Media Marketing World and frequently makes media appearances and has contributed to entrepreneur.com. You can learn more about Marc at naturalborncoaches.com. Today, we are talking to Marc about how to grow and monetize a Facebook group and how to grow organically without spending a penny on ads. So now, let's welcome Marc to the podcast. Hey, Marc, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Kela.
I'm super excited to talk to you. Today's topic is all around building your practice without using Facebook ads and without using ads in general and really building organically. And so I think this is a topic that needs to be talked about, and I'm so excited you're the person to do it.
Yeah, I enjoy this topic too, because that's how I built my business up. In March of 2014 is when I got into the coaching world, and it was all organic, rolling up my sleeves and going that way. So I like sharing about it.
I love that. That's similar to me. I started in 2016 and nobody was really doing ads. It was all kind of, word of mouth, and I was sharing on my personal Facebook page to friends and family. And so, yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Well, let's talk about, just your story, how you got into the coaching space, and, tell us what inspired you to start your business.
So I won't lie and say I want to be a coach since I was a toddler, or, I wanted to play shortstop for the Blue Jays, but that wasn't in the cards. To make a really long story short, my first life was in real estate. I did that right out of university, and I built up a big real estate business in Canada, and everything was going great until everything collapsed. And it was, not pretty. Not that any business closures are pretty, but yeah, it wasn't good. So I had a period of a few years where I was really stumbling around the wilderness trying to decide what do I want to do next. When I was finished with real estate, I'm not really wired to be the 9 to 5, sit at a desk and all that stuff. So I ended up hiring several coaches to, determine what I was going to do next. And that gave me a front row seat to see what coaching was, because before that, I always, I knew there were coaches out there, but usually if I heard coaching, I would think it was sports related, right? So that gave me the front row seat, and I said, you know what, I think I'd like to do this for a business. It's independent. A location doesn't matter. You have a laptop, pretty low overhead, the flexibility to set your own schedule. And that's where I got started in 2014 with my business. So it's been over 12 years now with it. But yeah, like I said, to make a really long story short, that's how I got into coaching.
Amazing. I love that. And yeah, it is such a wonderful career. I mean, you nailed it. You get to work from anywhere. You get to make, there's no ceiling income. You get to work with amazing people, and it just is a really amazing career. So I love that you said that.
Yeah, it was an adjustment. I was used to being in a busy office. There's all the stuff going on, and then there's also the social connections and things. And when I switched to being a solopreneur, working from home, it just as I'm not wired to work in an office, some people may not be the right fit because there's Netflix calling and the couch in the middle of the day. And you're like, well, maybe I'll take 4 or 5 hours to watch whichever series. And I'm not trying to shame anyone, by the way, who's working, say, in corporate, or if they're happy, great, with it. But I do caution people, because I found there was an adjustment with a little bit of a loneliness when I was used to being in an office with 50 to 100 people buzzing around, and then all of a sudden it's you there. Yeah. And the laptop. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind.
For sure, for sure. And I can definitely relate to that too. And I always tell people, you have to, this is a career and you have to treat it like that. You can't be folding laundry or watching Netflix when you're supposed to be in the office, even if your office is, the next room. So
I always joke, I say my boss is a real asshole because it's me.
right, exactly. I love it. Well, let's talk about organic growth. So the main point of, today's conversation, building a business organically without ads, just give us, kind of an overview of why that works so well for you specifically.
Well, I didn't really have any choice. So just to back up a little bit, the reason that my real estate business took off so much, I got started in real estate at 21, right out of university, and I looked about probably 15 at the time. I'm amazed anyone sold their home with me looking as young as I did. That's not an issue now because I'm mostly gray at this age. But so with real estate, the reason it took off so quickly is my early sales. I plowed it right back into marketing. So this was a stone age, I'll say, the early 2000s, but I was doing a lot of radio ads, physical postcards to areas. I was doing a lot of print advertising, and I had a slogan, Marc Mawhi sells a city, that was just plastered all over my local market. So it got to a point where I couldn't order a pizza without, if they're like, well, what's your name? It's Marc Mawhi. Oh, Marc Mawhi sells a city or whatever. When I started in coaching, I didn't have the benefit of that big war chest to dump a bunch of money into ads because I was coming off a business closure and it was a shoestring budget, or I say it was a dental floss budget, but it wasn't a big budget. At the time, I thought it was a big disadvantage because I'm looking at there were some people doing ads or hiring copywriters or all this other stuff. And I thought, oh man, I've got one arm tied behind my back here with it. But looking back with the benefit of hindsight, I see it was actually probably an advantage because it forced me to roll up my sleeves, create my own content, get really good at honing in on my message and getting disciplined about getting stuff out there instead of just throwing money at ads and crossing your fingers. So that's where I was forced to do organic just because I didn't have the budget really for ads at that time. But I always tell people that you have a couple paths that you have to take. This is what frustrates me when I'm speaking with a client or potential client and we're talking about organic and they're like, well, no, I don't want to spend that much time. That seems like a lot of work. I'm like, okay, well, so how much are you spending on ads per month? Well, I don't have the money for ads. I'm like, well, you got to choose one or the other. If you're not doing ads, you got to make up for it with organic. Or, of course, you could do hybrid, too. You could do organic and then supplement it with ads as well. But you don't have the benefit of doing none of them, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And so talk to us about, taking it even a step back. When you say organic, for those listening who are like, what is he talking about there? Talk to us about that for that beginner coach that might not even know that phrase.
It sounds like food. You're at the grocery store, you see organic. I mean, in simplest terms, you could say organic is something that doesn't have like ad spend. You're posting it to your whether it be Facebook friends, it could be LinkedIn or whatever, but you're not just pushing it out there with a bunch of ad spend. So organic is, basically that. I would say an easy way to look at it is content that isn't boosted by ads or marketing budget.
Gotcha. And so really it's just content that you haven't put money behind. It's just the content that you're posting, daily on a regular schedule. Gotcha. And I know one of the ways too that you've built your business is through Facebook groups. You were just telling me offline, you have a huge growing community of over 30,000 people in your group. So talk to us about that. I'm assuming this is a strategy that you also use to build organically.
Yeah. So I have a Facebook group called the Coaching Jungle and would love to have anyone in there. We always want good people. So thecoachingjungle.com, shameless plug. I launched the Coaching Jungle. So I won't get into the whole story, but originally in 2014, I had a Facebook group for my podcast guest. I have a podcast called Natural Born Coaches. You're going to be a guest on it. So I'm excited about that. And the first year of the podcast, it was a daily show. It's since gone to weekly, but I accumulated the first 360 some guests pretty quickly. And I opened up a Facebook group for guests who were on the show, and it had a very unoriginal name. It was Natural Born Coaches Past Guests. So that was only people in there. I want to have that group for the guests. And what was happening was every day I had people who hadn't been on the show, coaches requesting to join. And I would always send the same standard response like, hi, Joe, thanks for requesting to join my group. However, it's only for guests who've been on my show. So basically have a nice life. And what I decided after enough of those, I thought, geez, I really should have a group that's open to everyone here because I'm getting a lot of people interested in it. And in September of 2015, I launched a coaching jungle, opened it up. And by the way, I closed the other Facebook group, not the podcast. The podcast is up close to 1,000 episodes now, but I closed the group because, you know, the Confucius saying, man who chases two rabbits catches neither. So I said, okay, I'm going to focus on the coaching jungle, which is open to anybody with it. And yeah, that was September of 2015. And here we are now over a decade later, and it's up to about 30,000 coaches, or I say coaches or aspiring coaches. We don't say you have to be a coach to join or you can't get in. Some people are interested in coaching. They're thinking about it. And it's been probably one of the top couple things for my business here over the last 12 years. Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. And I think a group can be so powerful. You know, we also run Facebook groups through my business. And I think it's a great way to build community and to build your brand and to really, you know, meet with like-minded people. So I love that you say that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know people say everything's dead. Webinars are dead. Email marketing's dead. Facebook groups are dead. I've heard that. I will concede that it's gotten more difficult compared to, say, 2020, for example. The reach of groups is lower, and there's some other things there, but doesn't mean that it's dead. There's a reason why I think 2 billion people a day log into Facebook, and you can't get around it. It's a big gorilla in the room. So people have been saying for the last couple of years, oh, Facebook groups are dead. You got to go on this other platform or whatever. There's friction there for people to log into a new platform. They're already on Facebook. Now, if you're selling to, let's say, a Gen Z type market or whatever, well, you probably should put your efforts elsewhere. Maybe it's TikTok or somewhere else. But right now, Facebook groups are still very valuable. And there's a reason why so many people go onto Facebook every day.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. And I think we can say, you know, the whole coaching industry is growing and changing and getting more competitive. So I really believe wherever you put your attention, that's what's going to grow. So if you decide Facebook groups is the strategy that you want to use, then you're going to do well with it and it's going to grow.
Yeah, it's just you need a critical mass there. So if you have a Facebook group with 27 people and your mom's in it, your mailman, your neighbor, it's going to be tough regardless what good stuff. And I do see this. I see people, I'm exaggerating a little bit with 27, but I've done Facebook group audits as a bonus for certain things I've done where I've gone into people's groups and I give them a whole report. And I've seen people with groups with, say, 225, maybe 275 people. They're posting really good stuff, but they're not getting anything from it. And what I tell them is it's great that you're active in the group, but I would put more effort into growing the group as opposed to posting 10 times a day in there and punching yourself out. And this isn't anything that's been proven. It's more a gut feel for me. But what I found with my group and talking to other group owners is once you hit about 1,000 members, that seems to be the tipping point. I know with the coaching jungle it was. When we got to 1,000 members, it seemed like Facebook started suggesting the group to more people and it started to grow more quickly. So I always tell people if you've got 200 some people, it's great. Show up every day in there, but make sure that you're growing that group because you got to have enough eyeballs on your stuff there.
That makes sense. And so tell us, do you have any strategies for growing the group?
Well, I just did one of them a few minutes ago. Sneakily or not too sneakily, when I'm on a podcast, I will mention the group and I'll slip in there, you know, an invite for the group. The other thing that I did there, which costs just $10 or so, is I recommend that you buy the URL from GoDaddy or whoever, the domain, for your group name. So, for example, I have thecoachingjungle.com. There, I slipped it in again. And it forwards. If someone clicks on it, it goes over to the Facebook group. The problem with Facebook groups is sometimes they give you a really ugly URL. So if you start your group, it's like facebook.com/groups/194273. Or if someone does a search for it, and if there's a group with a similar sounding name, they might not find your group. So if you buy the domain and then you set up the forwarding to it, I think that's much better. If you can't get the exact domain, like let's say for whatever reason my domain was taken, I would go with something like junglegroup.com or something that sounds similar and then send it over. It's much easier to spit out that domain when I'm on a podcast like what we're doing now, as opposed to, well, go do a search for that. Because I've had some clients who their Facebook groups, they have 3 or 4 other groups or more on Facebook that have the identical name or very, very similar name to it. And that's not good.
Right. Definitely not. I love that strategy of getting the domain. I think that helps a
Yeah.
lot.
Another tip which gets people in there is with your email list, you have your autoresponder when someone opts into your list, and you automatically send them your free resource, whatever it is, your lead magnet, basically. In the PS for that first email where they're getting your gift, you could say, PS, I have a Facebook community with, however many, say, fertility coaches in there. We're sharing valuable stuff every day. We'd love to have you in here. Here's the link. So right there, really quick PS. So it's interesting because it's kind of an ecosystem. So my Facebook group grows my email list. When people request to join my group, it asks one of the questions, would you like to get email advice from Marc Mawhi to help you grow your business? If so, give your best email address. But my email list grows my Facebook group with the way that I just mentioned with the PS. So it's an interesting circle that way.
I love that. And I think that's a great point that you mentioned about the ecosystem, because this is something I'm always talking to my students about. You can't just post on social media organically and then not have anywhere to send people and not have a way to grow your email list and complete that circle. So I love that you say that about, mention your Facebook group. That's a great way to get people into that group and also, on your email list off of social.
Yeah, it helps too. Like everyone's in so many Facebook groups. There's hundreds of millions of groups, right? Like I just did a purge with ones I was in because there's a bunch that I hadn't visited since 2018. So you have to make it special. It's not enough just say, hey, join my group. So a couple ideas. Maybe you have a valuable resource that's only available in your Facebook group. People have to join the group to get whatever that resource is. Another example, I call it a big fish strategy. So let's say there's someone big in your niche, in your world. Maybe it's an author that has a popular book or something like that. Instead of interviewing that person and then just blasting it all over the internet so it's available for everyone, you can put it inside the group. So for example, one of my coaching friends used to be in the security team for Tony Robbins. And when we were talking about this years ago, he was setting up a Facebook group, but he had said Tony agreed that he could interview him. Well, people are interested in that because a lot of people like Tony Robbins, big name or whatever. He was going to just put it out there on his Facebook profile and other places. And I said, no, don't do that. Put it inside your group, the walled compound there, so people have to actually join your group to see that interview. So it makes it feel a little bit more special if not everyone has access to it.
Oh, I love that. That's a great strategy. So thank you for sharing that. Well, let's talk about just overall strategies that you've used to grow, organically to grow your business.
So I have something I call the 3 pillars. Basically, I think any coach, this probably applies to entrepreneurs in general, online entrepreneurs, but you know how there's a million things you could be doing. Everyone's like, oh, you got to be over here, you got to be here, you got to be there. I recommend that you hone in on just 3 and then you put all your energy there as opposed to putting 1% into 100 different things. So for example, my 3 pillars, my podcast is a big one, Natural Born Coaches, my email list, I'm big on email marketing, and then my community, the Coaching Jungle Facebook group. It's not that I'm not doing other things. I'm on LinkedIn, I post there every day or whatever, but it means I'm focusing 90% of my stuff on those 3 pillars. And something will have to be really good to displace one of the others. So years ago, do you remember roughly circa 2021, everyone was gushing about Clubhouse? You have to be in Clubhouse. It's the next big thing. Yeah.
I was on Clubhouse and I was thinking about how silly it was today.
I'm not a fan. So back then I had so many people, oh, you got to be in Clubhouse. You got to be in Clubhouse. And now this was a time that only Apple users could get the invite. I don't think, and I had an Apple, I've always used Apple like iPhone. So they try to make it sound really exclusive. Someone had to send you an invite or whatever. And I looked at it and I thought, a platform with audio to sit around there, I wasn't feeling it. So one day I was on a Zoom call with a coach friend of mine that I know, and he's like, are you in Clubhouse yet? He's gushing about it like, oh yeah, it's great, or whatever. And he goes, oh geez, I got a client just last week on it. And I was like, well, how long do you spend on Clubhouse? And he was spending 5 days a week, 8 hours a day in his room. So I'm like, do the math. The math probably isn't mathing. But anyways, I finally gave in. I said, look, I've resisted. I said, I will try it just to see, because I'm always open to testing things. I don't want to rule stuff out, but I say, I really don't think it's for me, but I will check it out. I knew very quickly. He gave me the invite, checked it out. It was a lot of what I'd say douchepreneurs would be the word, and just, it wasn't for me. And I just quit. I got out of it. I said, okay, I'm done with it. Now Clubhouse is dead, or I don't know, maybe it's on life support. There's 10 people using it around the world. I don't know. One of the reasons he was like, oh, it's great because celebrities might pop in. Elon Musk popped into a room or whatever. I'm like, oh, come on. So my 3-pillar strategy defended me, it protected me there because I didn't just hop on the next thing. And I find that coaches, online entrepreneurs are lemmings. A few years ago was Threads. Oh my gosh, you got to be on Threads. It's like Twitter, except it's sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. Elon Musk isn't there, and it's so nice. And Threads, I don't know what it's doing, but anyways. So yeah, I would recommend identifying your 3 pillars. And there's 2 important criteria for those pillars. First off, it has to be something that you enjoy, because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to consistently do it. And it has to be something that works. So if you're doing something for 10 years, you've never gotten a client from it, I don't care how much you love it, you should probably quit it or find out how to swing it around to get it to work.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I completely agree with all of those. We've talked about email marketing. I think it's so important to get people on your list and off of social media, definitely building your community, using Facebook groups to do that. But let's dive in a little more to the podcast, because I do feel I have a podcast I've had for 7 years. I just started this new podcast. I think it's a great way to build your practice and your business. But for newer coaches and newer, business owners, would you recommend a podcast to start, or talk to us a little bit about your feelings around the podcast?
So with podcasting, as you know, it's not a get rich quick.
Yeah.
There are a lot of podcasters who think it's like a magic money tree they plant in their backyard and it automatically gives them clients. It's not. So I always tell people I got my first podcasting client in just 42 days, but there's an asterisk because that, as I mentioned, that was a daily show. So 42 was 6 weeks worth of daily shows. So that's almost, if it was a weekly show, that would have been close to a year, right? So yeah. Podcasts also, there's the tech side of it. There's the editing, the uploading. My brother, Matt, he has a company and they edit podcasts. So I've kind of seen behind the curtains with like some of the stuff there and everything. And he handles my show, and he's seen a lot of people who jump in, and there's, you've probably heard the term podgatory, where it's like purgatory. Someone starts a podcast, they haven't killed it, but it's also, they haven't released new episodes. So it's not alive. It's not dead. It's kind of in that weird space. My recommendation, I would never discourage someone from doing a podcast because I love it and it's been great for me. But my recommendation would be probably to start guesting on shows first, because it's a lower time investment for you and also cost and everything else. So you show up for whatever, half an hour, you share your expertise, but you're not handling editing, production, all that other stuff. Please make sure you share the episode around if you're doing that, because hosts, I don't know about you, it's my pet peeve when guests don't share it much or at all with it. So maybe you start by guesting on shows. One of my friends, he did like guesting on steroids, where it was, I think he did 300 shows a year for the first couple of years. It was crazy. And he has his own show now, but he got a ton of business just from guesting. So it's definitely a lot less commitment for you. There's the time, but overall it's less work for you to be a guest.
Yeah. And I love that. I completely agree. That's something I did when I first started my business, was just guesting on shows, because it really allows you to see if you even like to be a podcaster, how you're going to interview.
Yeah.
Gives you a lot of experience.
And you're also getting exposed to a lot of people who didn't know you. So for example, me coming on this show, I've never been pregnant, and fertility isn't something that I think about a whole lot. I do have a son who's graduating high school this year. So there's people who are watching this or listening to it now who didn't know who I was before. So that's the power of getting out on shows. You're being exposed to a whole new audience. They're giving you their stage, but there has to be reciprocity. And that's why I mentioned it's very important if you're going on to shows that you share that episode around. A lot of people don't do that, and that's, I think, unprofessional, or it's not really cool. I'm not saying you have to share it every day, but now I will say this, just a train of thought. If you're hosting a show, a lot of times people think, oh, I have to get the biggest guests out there, the biggest names or whatever. Sometimes it's the lesser known guests that are actually better, because they're so excited to be on the show that they're constantly sharing it. If you have a busy person on, they have a big following, but if they don't share it around anywhere, the value may not be there for you. So you have to take that into account.
Yeah, I completely agree with that too. I found that some of the biggest names that I've had on my show, they're not sharing, and it's so hard to get a hold of them, and it's those medium, people that aren't small but they're not huge are the best guests. So
Yeah, definitely. Like you probably don't want someone that rolled out of bed today and started their business
right.
and they have very, very small following or whatever, but there is a happy medium there. So I have had big guests on my show. I had the founder of Netflix or co-founder of Netflix. I've had Steve Chandler, who's big in the coaching world, Rich Litvin, Larry Wingett, the pit bull of personal development. He's been on a few times. So there are people like that who are great, but don't neglect the other guests.
Sure. I love that. What about mistakes you see people make when they're growing organically, especially when we're talking about Facebook groups or just organic in general?
They have the filter on too much. They're too worried about saying the wrong thing. Maybe they come from a corporate background where they're muzzling themselves. And I get it. I get the feeling, but you really have to be entertaining or at least show your personality. So, for example, the first year that I did email marketing, I was very, I can't lose a subscriber. I don't want to offend anyone or whatever. And after like a year, I wasn't getting much from it. I was ready to kill my email. And I had a guest on my podcast who was big on daily emails. He convinced me to do daily emails, which I did for many years, almost a decade. Back a few months ago, I started going. Sometimes I do daily, but it's not always daily now. But what I did besides the frequency increases, I took the filter off and I just wrote like I talk, and I wasn't worried about offending anyone. And yes, I got a few people sometimes have messaged me or emailed me that they're disappointed at what. It's not like I'm dropping F-bombs or whatever, but I remember I said bull crap in an email and somebody didn't like it because energetically it wasn't, positive or whatever. And I'm like, hey, you can unsubscribe.
Right.
I do think it with Facebook that you have to take the filter off and definitely be yourself, though. Don't try to be someone else. So the example I give years ago, Tony Robbins had a documentary on Netflix, I Am Not Your Guru. I think it was in 2016. And I watched it, and he must have had the Guinness Book of World Records for the number of profanity, like F-bombs that he was dropping. It was F this, F that, or whatever. He's Tony Robbins. He can do that. But the interesting thing I noticed in the couple weeks after that was released, all these coaches I know who I'd never seen swear in their content were suddenly swearing like sailors. And, I saw one, it was kind of silly. He's like, if you don't go for your effing dreams, like go F yourself, you blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is just silly. So if you curse in real life, things like that's how you talk. Okay, great. Go with it. But and vice versa. If you're always cursing, don't suddenly become the fairy godmother or talk like a Southern belle or something like that. Just write like you talk. And I've had people on my email list who I know quote in real life, and they're like, oh, your emails, it sounds like how you talk outside of work. I'm like, well, yeah, because it's me,
Right. I love that. Yeah. And I think that's such an important point to make, really showing your personality, because people don't want a robot. They don't want something, especially now, that looks like it may be from AI. They want to know that it's you.
Yeah. I have a love-hate relationship with AI. Yeah. So I've kept a healthy distance from it. I'll be honest. I use it for brainstorming, things like that, and bouncing ideas around, but I don't like it for content. One thing I've noticed now for Facebook group owners I can see is when there's posts in the group, there's a thing that says AI info underneath, and it basically says there's a good chance that this post was written with AI. And I'm like, oh man. So I know some groups have banned AI slop if something's clearly AI with it, but I don't recommend using AI for content. The other thing I recommend with your group, Facebook group, which I think is really important, one big thing is you want to make sure people with one look know what your group's about. So with the coaching jungle, it's very clear it's not a group of accountants or dentists or whatever, right? It's for coaches. So I like having a keyword in there. I knew with the group I want to have either coaches, coaching, something like that. And then also with how you have a theme, mine is a jungle. So anyone who goes in there sees the banner as a Tarzan Marc, which is like a more cartoon or AI Marc. I don't really have a six-pack. It's easier to do it that way than go to the gym regularly. But I'm swinging on a vine like Tarzan Marc, and then our theme days and everything have like a jungle theme just to make it a little bit different. At the very least, make sure people know that it's your group. Again, going back to those audits that I've done for people, I was amazed at how many group owners, you look at the banner and they're nowhere to be found. You don't know whose group it is or whatever. So you really want to have ideally your face and name in the banner so it's very clear who's running the group.
Yeah, I like that. So important. And talk to us about monetization of the group, because I know this is something that you talk about a lot as well. When should we think about monetizing our group, and any strategy around that?
Day one, don't hold off. So a lot of Facebook group owners are afraid to sell to their group. They're like, well, no, I'll give value, and they're very skittish. And putting out a free community, free resource for people, you deserve to be compensated for it. So I don't care if you have 5 people, 5,000, 50,000, you should be selling to it. I sell to my group every day. Now, it's not that every single post is selling, but I'm always, every day there's an invitation with whatever I'm promoting. So I monetize my group in 2 ways. There's my coaching offers. So my niche is really helping coaches. That's all I work with. So I've got the stuff that helps coaches. But the other thing I do in the group and in my business is partnerships. So if somebody has something that helps coaches and it looks like a good fit for my people, I'll promote them in my group and elsewhere in there. So I have JV partnerships, I have a joint venture package, and then I also have something that I launched in 2024, so it's about 2 years old, and it's called the Coaching Jungle VIP. And basically what that is it gives VIP members permission to post offers on the wall once a week. They get to create events in the group, which we don't allow people, non-VIPs, to do. We have a private VIP group where they network. We do a couple Zoom networking meetings every month, and it's not a lot of money either. So I know a few groups that do it. One calls it a spotlight program. I called it a VIP, but that's been really good as well.
Oh, I love that. That's a great idea, to just form a VIP portion and monetize from it. I love that. And I agree. I mean, you put in a lot of time and effort and your own money into building your business, into doing things like a free Facebook group, then you should definitely, have something to sell to your audience, because people love to buy. They don't like to be sold to.
I feel like people have a sense, maybe energetically, if you're afraid to sell to them and you're skittish. So we all know with coaches and online entrepreneurs with webinars, for example, a lot of them nail the actual webinar, the teaching, but then when it goes to the call to action or the pitch, it changes, right? They get a little bit tense or tight and and they rush through it or whatever. I've always taken the approach, like I said, that if you're hosting a free community, you should be monetizing it. So we're really tight on rules with the group. We always have been. We don't allow promotions on the wall other than with the VIPs that started recently. We don't allow people breaking the rules. We'll either warn them, put them on post approval, or just boot them with it. So you almost have to act like a dictator of a banana republic, and that's tough for some people because they want to be liked or whatever. You'll get eaten alive if you don't enforce the rules. I had one guy years ago who said, gee, Marc, I see you're not following your rules because you're promoting your stuff or whatever. And I said, yeah, I spend hundreds of hours a year on this group, so I'm going to do it. If you're not, and I think we have it right in our description that I will be promoting my stuff. If you're not cool with that, you're free to leave. So you do have to take a bit of an iron fist approach when it comes to running Facebook groups, or you're going to get eaten alive.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, Marc, I could just talk to you all day, but we do have to take a short break. So we're going to do that now. Before we go to break, maybe somebody's listening to this and they're thinking of starting a business, or maybe they're a beginner and they're, still nervous and scared. Do you have any messages of hope, just, for entrepreneurship in general? What would you say to that person?
A lot of people crap on entrepreneurship because it's not, quote, safe, but I don't think there's any safe jobs. You could be let go at any point. So that's what I would say. The other thing I would say is Stephen Furtick has a quote where he says, I'm going to probably butcher it, but this is roughly saying that he's talking about comparison and why we feel bad with comparisons, because we're comparing our behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. So with social media, you look at people, and I know there's people who are really struggling and all this stuff, but then you look at their public things and you swear it's 24/7, everything's going great, they're making $10 million a year and all this other stuff. Is not that way behind the scenes. So I would say be very careful consuming all of that, because you're going to feel bad. I always have a rule online. I assume everyone's full of it until they prove me wrong with it. So yeah, just do your own thing, stay in your lane, put the horse blinders on and do your thing without worrying too much. Like, oh geez, Joe's, doing real well. Why am I not doing as well? Or Mary or whatever.
I love that. Don't compare yourself. Just stay in your lane and do your thing. But we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk more practical tips. What are your non-negotiables for building successful online business? So stay with us. We'll be right back. Before we continue, I want to share a resource with you. If you're a beginner or a wellness professional who feels called to support fertility, but you're not quite sure how to actually turn that into a coaching offer or a business, well, I've created something to help you. It's called Fertility Coaching Roadmap. Inside, I walk you through step-by-step how to integrate fertility coaching into your current practice, transition into a virtual or online business, attract and enroll aligned clients, and create real, lasting results. If you're ready for more clarity and direction, you can download the free roadmap in the show notes. Now let's get back to the episode. Hey, Marc, welcome back.
Good to be back.
So let's talk practical tips. I know you've already given us so many things, but what are maybe 5 non-negotiables that you would tell a new coach as they're starting their business?
I mean, one thing I would say is be really clear on your ideal client and have Michael Port wrote a book. Was it Book Yourself Solid? I think it's called. And he had something in there talk about the red velvet rope strategy, where basically you have to treat your business like the hot new restaurant or dance club that's in town, where they don't just let anybody in. They've got the 6'5", 325-pound bodyguard or bouncer with the clipboard that's comparing the names, making sure that you're allowed in. So I think that's really important, not to just take anyone on who has a pulse or who can fog a mirror. That would be one. Another one, get really, really clear on your time. So for example, when it comes to my schedule, I'm not scattering my calls and stuff throughout the week. I don't do calls in the mornings. Evenings usually, sometimes there's someone in Australia or something I do. But my calls, and I don't do calls Mondays, Fridays, or the weekends. So basically mine are bunched into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday afternoons. And the advantage there is it lets me really get into flow with other stuff. If for example, I'm working on a book now. So I know, okay, great. It's Monday. I can work all day in the book, or in the mornings. I'm not worried like, oh, geez, I have a call coming up in an hour. It's hard to get into a state of flow. So that would be one. I know it's cliche, charge what you're worth, but I see way too many coaches that are offering these free sessions or very, very cheap, like bundles of 10 sessions for $200. I get paid like $20 for a coaching session. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. Get really clear on your niche is important. You don't want to try to be everything to everyone, or you're not going to get any clients that way. And finally, I have something that I always do a practice with my clients. I call it the 3 questions. I believe it's really important to answer 3 questions as a coach, but this also applies for any online entrepreneur. Is who do you help? How do you help them? What's your offer or offers? And then where do you find them? And a lot of people would look at that and think, oh, well, of course, yeah, that's easy. That's common sense. But then once you start asking them about it, they don't have it nailed down. They're not really clear on it. They might have one of the questions answered, maybe 2, but very rarely do they have all 3 that are crystal clear. So who, how, and where, that would be very important.
Oh, I love that. And all such great tips. You talked about boundaries and blocking your schedule, getting clear on your niche, 3 questions, who, how, and where. I think all of that is really helpful for, these newer coaches that are trying to start these businesses. So thank you for that. And I wanted to touch on mindset for a second, because I know this is also one that is big. A lot of coaches, whether they're new or they've been at it for years, I feel can get that critter brain of I'm not enough, I don't know enough, who am I to coach? So talk to us about the mindset piece. Have you ever dealt with this, and how do you coach your clients through it?
I see imposter syndrome's huge for coaches. There's a great book. I had him on my podcast before. Todd Herman wrote The Alter Ego Effect. Have you seen that one?
I have.
So the Cliff's Notes version is basically with the alter ego effect. He gives examples of athletes, actors and actresses and so on who adopt an alter ego when they're going out onto their field of play, whether it be business, a stage, whatever, in front of a camera. You're almost pretending to be someone else. Or so, for example, Beyonce, when she was getting going, she was really nervous to get out on stage. So she had Sasha Fierce, I think it was called. And you're embodying the traits of that alter ego. And you could do other things like carrying a totem, which is an item like in your pocket. Maybe it's a coin or something that reminds you of that. And he gets into it. If you have to go out into that field of play, maybe it's a wristband, whatever, you put it on and then you're becoming that person. And I think that's a really interesting thing because it separates you from it. You kind of get out of yourself a little bit of separation there. So I'd recommend reading The Alter Ego Effect if you're worried about getting out and doing business. The other thing to keep in mind is people aren't thinking about you nearly as much as you think they are, which is good. So Mel Robbins, when she was writing a column for Success Magazine years ago, I remember reading this. Do you remember the Anthony Weiner scandal? He was a politician. Yeah. Anyone who doesn't know, Anthony Weiner was a up and rising politician, and he tweeted a picture of his last name as Weiner. You can't write this. It sounds like somebody wrote it. It's a politician named Anthony Weiner getting into a scandal over a dick pic. But anyways, so he meant to send it by direct message to a woman who wasn't his wife, and he tweeted it out to 50,000 or 100,000 people or whatever. So it was a big thing all over, or we thought. I remember late night hosts were making jokes about it. I'm in Canada. I'd heard about it. And it was kind of a funny thing. So Mel Robbins was telling the story that she was in New York, which is where he's based. It's sort of ground zero for this whole scandal. And she was getting a cab, and she was just looking to make conversation with the cabbie. And she said, so what do you think of that whole Anthony Weiner thing? Pretty crazy, eh? And he said, who? And she said, hey, Anthony Weiner, you haven't heard of that? He said, no, who's Anthony Weiner? So her point was this cab driver was probably, who knows, maybe he's worried because his wife's sick, or he didn't know how he was going to make rent, or he had car payment coming up. He didn't like who his daughter was dating, whatever. If a cab driver in the middle of the Anthony Weiner scandal geographically doesn't know who Anthony Weiner is, people aren't sitting around talking about you or I at their kitchen table. Oh my God, did you see Marc? I don't know what. Marc opened up an offer and he thought he was going to sell 10 spots for it, and he only sold 8. Can you believe it? People don't care. Or if you change your niche. Oh my gosh, did you see Sarah change her niche? Last month she was doing X and now she's doing this. Can you imagine? They're not talking like that. They're worried about their own lives.
Exactly. I love that you say that. And yeah, that's so ironic that there was a scandal about a guy with the last name. Funny. Amazing, Marc. Well, thank you so much for being here. We do have to start to wrap up. You've given us so much today. There's a couple things I want to do before we close the show. First, I just want to tell you thank you for everything that you've done for us and taught us. And, we just really appreciate the work that you're doing in the world. So thank you.
Yeah. Again, thanks for the invite.
And then I do like to play a little game with my guests. And this is so our audience can get to know more of your personality. So are you open to that?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So this is our lightning round. How it works, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. You're just going to say the first thing that comes to mind. If you want to pass, you can pass.
Okay.
All right. So what's your favorite way to reset after a stressful day?
Reading on the deck, as long as it's not winter in Canada, then I'm reading inside. But yeah, I'm a bookaholic.
I love it. How about a piece of tech that your business can't live without?
So I actually have it on my desk, which I'll share. I'm not an affiliate for this, but there's something called the Brick. Have you heard of this one?
I have, yeah.
So I've been using this for quite a while. Anyone who... So the issue, I know it's a lightning round, so I'll keep it really short. The problem with phones is that if you put your phone, turn it off or whatever, you're like, oh, geez, I have to get into it to get, picture, calendar, something that I really need. With the Brick app, you're able to brick or lock the apps that are the most troublesome for attention. So for me, I have Facebook lock, Instagram, and so on. So when you brick your phone, you touch it against, there's an app for it too, but there's a physical little plastic gray box with a magnetic thing. So I have mine on my fridge. And if I want to unbrick my phone, I have to get up from the office, walk out to the fridge, touch it against the brick, and then it'll open it up. Someone who says, well, gee, how does that help? It's a physical act of having to get up, go out there. It makes it more difficult than just reaching over and turning my phone on or off, do not disturb or whatever. So I can still use my phone without the pesky big distraction apps that are in there. And it's saved a ton of time for me, and it really helps with my attention span.
I love that. And you until you're starting to bring your mindset to that, you don't realize how often you just grab your phone and don't even think about it. And then it sucks.
I was awful for it. If I was in a grocery store lineup, just instinctively, I would reach for my phone, and it's not good. So I've really worked on my screen time, and I've done a lot better because of the Brick app.
I love it. How about a joy in your life right now?
This sounds funny. I'm a big baseball fan, huge fan. Go Blue Jays. So my son and I are in a baseball pool where we have a team together. We did a draft at the beginning of the season. We have the ESPN app. My second job is as our team GM, just watching this. So that's one thing I do check sometimes throughout the day with it. But he and I are exchanging texts. Hey, did you see how this player did last night? Look at our team, or so on. And it's been a really good bonding experience too with Gray, my son. So yeah, our baseball team, which are called the Toronto Blue Grays instead of Blue Jays, because his name is Gray.
I love that. Oh my goodness. How about an investment that you made in your business that was a game changer?
I would say not singular, it's been multiple, but coaches really. And yes, I'm biased. I'm in that world, but I've just at any time in my life in the last decade, I've had a coach in my corner for whatever different thing I need help with. And it's just a way to shortcut getting from point A to point B. And that's what worries me with AI is I feel like there are some people out there think, well, I don't need a coach now because I could just ask ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. That doesn't replace a good coach there. So I really hope that people don't fall into that trap and that they actually hire coaches. But yeah, definitely coaches would be the investment.
I completely agree. I think you always need a coach and a mentor and somebody who's doing better than you that can show you the way. It's so very important. And AI is always going to agree with you. So people need to remember that. It's not going to challenge you in any way. It's just going to agree with what it thinks you want to hear. So
it can be very pandering. Now, on the flip side, I use Claude, and I'd tell Claude to be really tough on me. And then there's been a few times it's been a little too tough, and I'm like, hey, you got to chill out, man. Like, loosen up here.
So you're arguing with your robot.
I fight with it sometimes. I don't use AI as much as some people, but I do use it. And it got mad at me for not taking its advice. It wanted me to kill off something I'd been doing for years in my business. I'm like, hey, the fact I didn't agree to kill it off within 5 minutes of it telling me, I'm like, yeah, you got to relax here.
Right. I love it. Oh my goodness, Marc. Well, tell us where we can find you. Where can we learn more about your work? And you have some free gifts for us. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so naturalborncoaches.com is the main hub. And we talked about the 3 questions earlier. If you go there, there's a report. It's about 16 pages or so, which goes over those 3 questions and how to answer them. So that's something that you could go through that exercise and get clear on it. So naturalborncoaches.com. We also mentioned thecoachingjungle.com. That's the Coaching Jungle group. And if you want to check it out, I can give you a link if you want to put it on the show notes page for the VIP perk, because that way you can make some money on it, full disclosure, as an affiliate with it. So I will give you set up an affiliate link for you. But the Coaching Jungle VIP is only $97 a month to get all those promotional perks in the group, reach 30,000 coaches, or $497 a year, or $997 lifetime. You're in forever. So I'll get you that link.
Amazing. And I'll link that in the show notes. So everybody listening, make sure you check out Marc's group and check out the VIP. Sounds like you have a lot of great resources in there. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, any final thoughts? What do you want to say to us as we close? Just any piece of inspiration you want to leave us?
Well, I'll leave you with one of my favorite acronyms. I think it came from a Robin Sharma book, if I remember right, and it's KMF. And KMF stands for Keep Moving Forward, which is very important for any entrepreneur. You get knocked down, got to keep going, dust yourself off, and don't worry about it. So KMF, keep moving forward.
I love that. KMF. I completely agree.
The other one's TCB. I'm an Elvis fan. So he had the lightning bolt with the TCB. They gave all his entourage, but that stands for taking care of business.
I love that. I'm actually from Memphis, and so I'm a big fan.
There you go.
Well. I love it. Well, cool. Again, thank you, Marc, for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody who's listening to this episode of Fertility Coaching Mastery Podcast. We're so grateful for you. We hope you have an amazing week, and we'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Bye for now. If this episode resonated with you, make sure you've subscribed so you never miss a new one. And if you found this helpful, I would love for you to leave a review or share it with another practitioner who's ready to step into fertility coaching. You can also download the Fertility Coaching Roadmap in the show notes to start to build your next level of impact. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next episode, because the world needs more supported fertility journeys and more practitioners like you leading the way.